I discovered programming through Levagoon. So I did the Levagoon bootcamp, and I started from scratch, and I learned programming there and made lots of connections. And from Levagoon, I met my business partner, and I started my company, software house. So now it's been 2 years now, and we build softwares and web apps, and we improve apps from startups also every day. So we also have 2 TAs here with us that's going to help to answer questions from everyone. We have Santi and Fernando. I've had the pleasure to work with both. I've worked with Santi in Levagoon, Tel Aviv, in Israel a couple of months ago, and I also worked with Fernando. Actually, Fernando was the one who invited me to Levagoon's bootcamp in the first place, and I've had the pleasure to work with him in São Paulo. So you can introduce yourselves as well, guys.
Okay, so rock, paper, scissors, Fernando. See who goes first. Yeah, okay. So 1, 2, 3. You can go ahead. Okay. So yeah, I'm Santi. I'm Santiago. I'm originally from Colombia. I did Levagoon. I joined the Berlin team on July last year, and I was coming from a music background. I was a recording engineer here in Berlin, so it was very stereotypical kind of like DJ guy with trying to make it big in the music industry. And when reality came on, crashing my dreams, or maybe I just wasn't disciplined enough, I discovered coding, and I was actually good at it. So I started freelancing, and then after a while, Levagoon took me in, and right now I'm a freelance and also a teacher for them here in Berlin, and it's been great. It's almost a year since I've been teaching for Levagoon, and it's been such a ride. That's how I met Ryan in Tel Aviv. Crazy times over there. It was very good, and yeah, that was like basically about me.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Santi. Thank you, Fernando. So we've had people asking if the webinar started yet. We've been introducing ourselves, and we are going to start in a few moments. We're going to talk about a little bit about APIs and webhooks. And well, I build web apps and platforms, and I also have to prototype a lot. For my clients, for myself, for my projects. I'm sure most of you also already had ideas or something like that. And how do I prototype things? How do I start a project? How do I validate my ideas? And we can use APIs to increase the speed of prototyping and to help us to automate process. So it's a very nice skill. It's very important to know how to how to connect with APIs and how to build prototypes. And we're going to talk today about that, about what's an API, what is that? I don't know even that. And how do I use them for my benefit? Is it easy? And can I do it without code? Yes, we can. And we're going to see this today. We have a Q&A section. So if you have questions, ask them in the Q&A section, and both teacher assistants will be answering them through the webinar. Okay, so don't be afraid to ask questions. You can ask them, but do this in the Q&A. So leave the chat for comments and for interactions, but for questions, go to the Q&A, and the TAs are going to help you all along, okay? So yes, I'm gonna go through some slides. I'm gonna show you a platform. It's being recorded, the session is being recorded and will be sent to everyone afterwards, okay? So I'm gonna share my screen with you to show you the platform. You're gonna receive a link for this platform after the webinar, after my lecture, my small lecture, and you're gonna have access. I'm gonna show you in a little bit. Okay. A little bit matrix there. Okay, so right here, you're gonna have access to this platform. Here you have access to the takeaways. So here we have the slides, but better than the slides, we also have takeaways from the entire lecture that you're gonna have access. And also, we're gonna have some challenge afterwards. So for the next hour, I'm gonna go through the lecture, and after that, you can have your turn to go through the challenges. If you want, you're gonna have access to this. You're gonna have the takeaways to look to, and also after, you can do a feedback in the thank you section. Here, you can leave your feedback about the workshop, okay? If you're entering right now, you can send your flags in the chat channel so we know where you're from, and you can send hello and everything like that, okay? Thank you all very much for coming. It's a pleasure to teach for you, and we're gonna start in a couple moments. Okay. So, first of all, I told you how important APIs are, okay? And what's an API? That's the biggest question here, I'm sure. Let me get this to full screen so I can help, so you can see it better. So, okay. So welcome everyone, and what you will learn in this workshop. So first of all, APIs today have created an ecosystem, an entire ecosystem around it. We're gonna understand that. We're also gonna see webhooks. What are webhooks and how can we use them to optimize automations? And in the last part, we're gonna build a prototype to automate a process without doing code, okay? Just by consuming APIs and building a prototype to help us with our project or getting our leads, okay? So, first of all, what's an API? So let's do a little metaphor to start. And let's take a restaurant, okay? So when you go to a restaurant, how do you get some food? What do you do? Do we go to the kitchen? Of course not. We don't understand what's happening in the kitchen. There's an entire process going on there that we don't know about, and we don't want to interrupt it. So how do we get food in the kitchen, from the kitchen? We ask the waiter, right? So we ask the waiter, can you bring me some food? He goes to the kitchen and take the order there. So API, it's the application programming interface. It's basically an interface that communicates with a application, okay? So using this metaphor in the restaurant, here's the restaurant's kitchen, and here is us. Well, to ask the kitchen for food, we use the waiter. And so the waiter, it's the API that connects us to the kitchen without exposing the kitchen. So we place an order to the waiter, and the waiter brings us the food. So we send a request to the waiter, and we get the response is our food. Sometimes it takes long, but it's okay. Usually APIs are very fast. We don't have that problem, just in restaurants. So in this metaphor, the waiter is the interface that interacts with it, and the application is the kitchen. And we are the users consuming the application. And how do we order that? How do we order to a waiter? How do we know what to order? Well, we have a menu. We have a list of things that we can order, desserts and main dishes. And through that menu, we know what we can order in that specific restaurant. So every API, every interface has a documentation, and we can use that documentation to know what we can order to the application, okay? And if you have questions, feel free to ask them using the Q&A, okay? And the TAs are gonna answer it to you. So why is the API useful? It abstracts the complexity. When we go to a restaurant, we don't need to know the temperature of the food, the time it needs to go in the oven. We don't need to buy ingredients. We don't need to even know what ingredients are being used. We don't need to know how many people are working in the kitchen. We don't need to know anything about that. With the API, with the waiter API, we can just go to the restaurant, order the food, and get the food. So the API abstracts the restaurant complexity for us. And that's what we want. It makes it easier to use complex things through documentation. So how does it work to use an API? We read the documentation. So we read the menu, we go to the restaurant, we read the menu, and we order, okay? So this is the well-known acronym, the application programming interface. And in this case, let's think about the restaurant. The application is the kitchen. The interface is the waiter. And what is the programming part? The programming is the code that runs there that we don't need to know. And why do we say application programming interface? It's because APIs are made for developers, okay? So they abstract complexity of pieces of code, of applications, and the developers will consume them. So when I'm building a prototype, when I'm building an application, I can consume some APIs. We're gonna see some examples tonight. And through these APIs, it makes it easier for me to develop, okay? And then I can use the API, the consumed APIs to make great products for my users. So APIs are not famous between users because they don't even know about them. So the most famous APIs, the developers know them very well. They know them by heart. They use them a lot. But the users, the end user, they don't even know, but they use it all the time. You guys use APIs every single day, all the time. But you don't even know you're using them, okay? So let's look at some vocabulary, okay? So an API exposes a service, so it exposes some data, and developers write programs which consume it. So in every API, the API is exposing something, and the developers, they consume that. So the kitchen API exposes what? The orders. And we enter the developers write the programs to consume it, and you get your food, okay? Let's take a look at another metaphor. It's good because we are going through the concept of API. So I like metaphors as well. And let's take a look at the wall socket, okay? So let's look at it as an API. What's the service that's being exposed by the wall socket? The service is electricity. So the wall socket exposes the electricity, and who consumes the electricity exposed by the wall socket? Any electrical device in our homes, right? So we can plug in the wall socket anything that we want, our notebooks and everything else. So the interface is just the wall socket. We don't want the end users to touch to communicate with the electricity itself. So that's the metaphor. So today, when we talk about APIs, we are mostly saying web APIs, okay? So web APIs are a subset of APIs. APIs can be much more. But today, when we say APIs, we are saying web APIs. Web APIs, they use HTTP requests. So they use requests on the web to communicate, okay? And well, if we look at APIs, regular APIs, non-web APIs, one example of that would be the keyboards on your laptops. Yes. So when you type a key on your laptop, it's communicating with your operational system. So with your Mac or Linux or Windows, it communicates through an API. Okay. So that's an API, that's not a web one. But most of the APIs we see and we use and we consume and we can use to help us in our daily basis are web APIs. So we have thousands of APIs. We have a website that you probably don't know about, that it's called Programmable Web. Mostly developers enter this website, and we can see we can browse for all the APIs available. So Programmable Web, if we enter here, you have access to all APIs available, or at least to most of them, and you can search about all the APIs you want. And you have access to their documentation and everything like that. Okay, so let's talk about some APIs that we use, okay? So for geocoding APIs, so we have the Google Maps API that we use a lot. It's one of the most famous. The Google Maps, what's the service? Let's think about the service and who consumes it. So what's the service provided by Google Maps? So developers use them to display a map system, okay? So we don't want to actually build the entire map. We can use the Google Maps API with copy and pasting some code. It's like 10 lines of code that you can copy and paste. It's really, really simple. And you can display a map on your website. So the consumers are, the service is building a map on your website, developers can use it, and who consumes it? Let's think about websites that use Google Maps. One big one is Airbnb. So if we think about when Airbnb started, so they were building an app, so you could rent your flats, you can put your flats online, and the developers there, they didn't want to build the entire map system. Imagine you're building Airbnb and you have to build the entire map system from scratch. Like you have to map the routes, the entire world, map everything just to make this piece of your website. So fortunately, we have Google Maps, we have APIs for maps, and they can easily add these maps to their websites. And also, if we see right here, there are price tags. So the maps, the Google Maps API, it allows you to customize like the tags, we call them markers, to display them as you want. Also the general looking of the map, you can customize it as you want, okay? There's a documentation on everything you can customize using Google Maps API. And Google Maps was great. It was free up until like 3 years ago or something. It was free for the first 100,000 requests per month. So you would only pay for Google Maps when you were really big. So if you're making 100,000 requests, you have the money to pay it. So it helped a lot to prototype and to start building your startup, okay? Today, Google Maps charge, it's like $7 per 1,000 requests. And well, they changed their business model. Because first they were free so they could get widespread, everyone would use, and it's so easy to integrate as a developer, it's so easy to get on with a map, and it's a very hard part if you're gonna build yourself your own map, you know. So Google Maps allowed us to do that. Now it charges for 1,000 users, and well, when it starts charging, we have competitors arising. So we also have the Mapbox API. If you want to display maps, it's amazing and it's free for the first requests. Like, if I'm not mistaken, you have something like 20,000 requests per month, and then it starts charging you a little bit only. So it's very easy to integrate your map. It uses the OpenStreetMaps. It's like the Wikipedia for maps. And it has geocoding, and it has a beautiful documentation. And do you know what geocoding is? Geocoding is when you take an address, like the text, I live on this street, and you transform this text to coordinates. So you need, every time you see a marker on a map, you need geocoding because the end users, they don't know the coordinates. The end users just know their address. So you need to geocode the address to a coordinate, and that's what's called geocoding. And Mapbox allows us to do this, and it's free. So first of all, you will need to sign up on Mapbox. You get a token to use the API, and you test it. So I'm going to do it for you right now. And I already have a Mapbox account. So here's the Mapbox website, and it's really simple. We can go start mapping for free. It's going to enter my dashboard. And how do we start? I don't know anything about APIs, and I want to geocode something. How do we start? So every time you start with an API, you look at the documentation, okay? So I don't know how to use Mapbox. Let's look at the documentation. Here you can find the documentation. And right here, we can navigate through the documentation. We could search, for example, for geocoding and find some examples. Here we have API search service. And as a developer, I don't need to read everything. I know I don't need to read everything here just to display you just to transform an address to coordinates. And I will go straight to the URL I need to display it to you in the browser, okay? So right here, we have the forward geocoding. And as we can see, I need to enter this address. So geocoding v5 endpoint and search text.json. And if we look here, endpoint, it's got to be either mapbox.places or Mapbox places permanent. It's two databases that they have. And the search text is probably going to be the address I want to search. So let's try it out. Right here, if we go down, we have some examples, some example requests. I'm going to use some of these example requests. And first of all, I'm going to just do this first part of the request so you can see. So here, what does it say? What does the response say? It says not authorized, no token. So why is that? Why do they need a token? So of course, they need to know how many requests I'm doing. So I need to be authenticated to make requests. So if we look in the Mapbox, right here, we have an API token. And we can use it like this. So I'm going to copy the entire link. And here we have the response from the API that we can see all the features and we can see the coordinates. They are right here. Of course, I'm not using any code. This is not a real use case. This is great to use in the browser to get responses to see what the API is answering me. And I'm getting the coordinates from Los Angeles in latitude and longitude, okay? So I'm gonna give you a quick sneak peek on how would a developer use this, okay? How a developer would interact with this API. You probably don't know that, but every browser has a developer tools that you can use JavaScript right on the browser, okay? So here I have my browser, and here I can use JavaScript. So I'm gonna make a request to the API. I'm not gonna go through this JavaScript code because we don't have the time for that. But this is making a request to the API and getting me the response, okay? So I'm getting the response right here. And then I'm getting the data, and I'm gonna display the data for you guys. So let's do a console. In JavaScript, console log shows whatever you want in the screen. So here, I'm doing this request, the same request I did with my browser, now I'm doing with JavaScript, and here it gives me an object. As you can see, that I can click and interact, so I can have the features, and I can look to every response. So if I were programming right here, I would do something like, okay, I want to get the data dot features. So in the data I'm entering the features part, and let's see, I have a list with everything I want, and I could get, as easily as I did this, I could get the center. See here, we have the coordinate. Also, we have some other things like relevance. So we have 5 results. The first one was the relevance, and the other ones are less relevant results from the API. Okay? So this is how I would interact, and I could easily get the coordinates from an address, a text. So I'm transforming, and I don't even need to do any code to get these coordinates. I just consume the API. Mapbox is doing all the work for me, so it abstracts that complexity. So that's what is amazing about it, okay? So you can feel free to go and ask questions to the TAs, okay? Using the Q&A. Please use the Q&A when asking questions so they can easily answer to you. So we did the geocoding. We transform an address to coordinates using API. Let's talk about some other famous APIs out there. We have telephony APIs. And one very, very famous between developers APIs out there is Twilio. So Twilio is actually, it's a company that is just for API. It's not like a project of Twilio, like Google Maps is a project of Google. But Twilio is an entire company that builds APIs for us regarding telephony. So it allows us to send SMS texts. And also it has a WhatsApp API now that allows you to send WhatsApp texts. So as a developer, I could use Twilio API to send text to my end users. And if we look at Twilio stock, it's worth like around $650 million, and it's just API consuming. So why is Twilio worth that much? Why is it so big? Because if you're a developer, imagine trying to build yourself a service to send text messages. There are so many operators out there. If you think worldwide, you have different telephone operators for every country. You would have to build it yourself. So when users sign in, every of these operators have their own API, so you can send text through them. You have to integrate with everyone and to build this entire thing from scratch. So sending an SMS message could take months or years even, because you would have to integrate with the entire world. And Twilio makes it really easy. That's why it's so big right now. So for developers, it gives you a very nice documentation, so it's easy to integrate. You write a few lines of code and boom, done. You can send text messages. And they charge us for it per text message, a little bit per text message. And that's why they're so big. And they're used by big companies, even Airbnb, Uber, TransferWise. They use Twilio to send messages, for example, in Airbnb, if I'm not mistaken. Every time you rent a flat, you can receive an SMS text message. When someone rented from you, you also can receive messages, and they all use Twilio to do it because they don't want to spend 1 year building themselves the telephony part, because they want to improve their own product. So that's why APIs are so important and so big. You can leave these parts, you get the blocks, and you just connect the blocks you want, and you focus on your own project. So it's really important also for prototyping, for building a sprint, for testing your product, because you don't have to build all these things, maps and telephony and everything. So let's see some other APIs. YouTube have an API. And let's think about the service and who consumes it. So YouTube lets you watch videos, lets you play videos on your website. So it's very simple to use. You can copy and paste some code in the HTML of your website, and you will have an embedded video playing for you on your website from YouTube. And Twilio charges per use. And let's think about how YouTube API makes money, because Twilio charges you per request. What about YouTube? YouTube, it's free, but how do they make money? They use ads. So it's also another business model that you can use. And you can display YouTube videos on every website, and they will play their ads on your website. So they make money from it as well. Another great API and really, really big and famous is Stripe. Stripe allows you to make the payment part of your application. So if you want to add payment to your application, you can use Stripe. And also why is Stripe so big? Because payment is very, very hard to develop yourself. First, you need authorizations. You don't even have the proper authorization to do it yourself. You first need to have a license to process payments and to store credit card information. And Stripe, he says, okay, let me do that for you. You can use my API. Here's the documentation. And you can integrate the payment part in your website very simply. So it abstracts the complexity of handling all payment and charging an actual credit card. So you can just use their API. And they charge like some small percentage of every transaction. Stripe is really amazing to build prototypes and also to build your apps. Big companies use Stripe. So let's sum up. APIs, they are used to inspire new ideas. So with all these APIs available to us, it's amazing that you can think, oh, I can build Airbnb, I can build a platform, a startup that let people rent the flats to other people, and I don't have to code payments, I don't have to code map by myself. I can use these APIs. So if you have the knowledge, if you know the APIs that are available to you, you know how easy it can be, how easier it can be to develop a product, because you're going to use these APIs that are already built. So they're amazing to inspire new ideas. And they also change the entrepreneurial landscape, because with all these possibilities, they abstract complexity and they give you the bricks to build your fortress, to build your house, to build your product. So you just need to connect those bricks together and to make a new product, to launch a new idea, to change things. So they actually change the landscape, and they help creating ecosystems. So this is built around ecosystems. Many companies are building APIs to make things easier, and other companies are using these APIs to develop great products for everyone around the world. Okay? So we are gonna start talking about webhooks. This was, I give you a quick brief on the API part. I just wanna remember you to, if you have questions, use the question tab, okay? Q&A tab to ask the TAs the questions. They are answering you as you ask them. And also, at the end of the lecture, you're gonna receive a link to enter the platform where you can see the takeaways. They're great. Please look at the takeaways afterwards, and you're gonna have your turn. So you don't need to be doing stuff now. I'm gonna be doing it, and you're gonna have your turn to build and to connect, to use some APIs that I'm gonna teach you, okay? And also to leave the feedback after, okay? So let's continue to webhooks. Okay, so we're good to go. And well, we've been through APIs, and now let's look at some really cool stuff. There are the webhooks, and the webhooks, they are kind of like the opposite of an API, and I'm gonna explain you what's that. Okay, so let's think about metaphors. Okay, so let's imagine I'm hosting a dinner here in my house, Well, not right now, maybe in a few months. So I'm hosting a dinner and I'm expecting guests for my dinner. So how do I know that my guests arrived? How do I know? I'm on the kitchen, I'm preparing dinner. How do I know my guests arrived? Do I have to go to the door every 5 minutes to see if someone's there? It would be impossible, right? So it makes no sense. So how do I know? Through the doorbell. So the doorbell, when the user arrive, when my guest arrive, he's gonna ring the doorbell and I'm gonna know, okay, someone is there. So it's the Hollywood principle that it's like, don't call us, we will call you. So on APIs, we have seen on APIs, we make calls to the APIs all the time. So when we want something, when we wanted the geocoding, when I wanted the geolocation, I'm sending you the address and I'm receiving the geolocation, the coordinates. With webhooks, sometimes it makes no sense for me to be making requests like if the guest arrived. I don't need to be going to the door all the time. I'm just saying, okay, there's a doorbell. When the guest arrives, he's gonna ring the doorbell and I'm gonna know. So webhooks, it's the Hollywood principle. Don't call us, we will call you. So all webhooks, they are based on an event. So when something happens, call me. And let's see, it's simple as that. You're gonna make an event. When this happens, the webhook is gonna be sent. So let's see if we are gonna sync our leads with a CRM, okay, with a personal CRM. So first, in a webhook, we ask the external service to call us when the event happens. The external service will send a request to our code, and we are gonna save it in the database, for example. So let's suppose I have MailChimp and I have an in-house CRM, okay? And I wanna sync the leads on the MailChimp with my CRM. It makes no sense for my project, my CRM, it's an in-house and it's an application. It makes no sense if I have to be sending requests every 2 minutes to MailChimp to see, let's see if I have a new subscription. Instead of that, what do we want? Every time someone fills this form, please, MailChimp, send me a request. So this is what we call webhook. And the event here is when the user fills the subscription form with the email. When this happens, MailChimp will send us this webhook. And what we will do, we will have a little piece of code there. We will act as the API. We will receive that request and we will store the email in our database, okay? So this is what a webhook is. So we have several services providing webhooks. For example, MailChimp, it has webhooks. It says, okay, you can use events and we will send information whenever this happens. And we have several services that provide webhooks for us. For example, we have a few examples here. Shopify, I don't know if you know, Shopify is a really big e-commerce platform. It makes building e-commerce really simple. And they have several different webhooks that you can use. For example, you can set a webhook to whenever a new payment comes in, it sends you a notification, for example, to your personal application. So I have a personal application and I want my Shopify e-commerce to send me a notification every time a new payment's come in my e-commerce. Also, for example, we have Stripe. Stripe is that payment platform that we've talked about. And it also has webhooks. For example, whenever I've used Stripe a lot and Stripe webhooks, and one great use is for recurrence payments, for example. So I have a SaaS, a platform, that we have recurrence. So people, they sign in, they pay monthly. So every month it charges them on the credit cards. So how will I know if the payment went through the next month? It makes no sense for me making calls to Stripe to check every day if it went through. So Stripe has webhooks, for example, for that. So in 1 month from now, when the next billing comes and the user pays for it, Stripe is going to send me a webhook saying, okay, this user has paid. And I will have a small piece of code that uses that and stores that in the database and lets the user continue to use my application. Okay, so this is what webhooks are. And let's prototype something. So let's build something using what we know right now about APIs and webhooks. So we are going to use what we learned to automate a process. Okay, so let's build a custom sales CRM. So I want to manage my clients. I want to manage my new customers. And I will have leads. And what do we need? We need a form. First of all, if I want to automate this, my leads will arrive. I will need the form to get the emails, the name, and whatever they want to say to me. So if I'm prototyping, MVP, validating something. So first of all, we need a form. Second of all, what do we need? We need to push the new lead to our workflow. So I will have a nice workflow to channel this lead, so they will arrive in my workflow, and I can move them. Okay, this one I have called, this one has closed the deal, or this one is lost. So I can have a nice tool to manage these new leads. So let's think about, to capture the lead information, we could use a tool. We are not going to do any code. We are going to consume APIs without coding. So we are going to use some tools. To capture the lead, we need a form. We can use the type form. And to push the lead to a workflow tool, we can use Trello. So let's go through these tools. So first of all, type form, we need to sign up for type form. I have already signed up. So right here, this is the first screen that you see on Typeform after you have signed up. And we can use it to get our leads, okay? So let's do a new Typeform right now. So I'm gonna start from scratch and hold tight. So it asks us the type form name. So I'm gonna say leads. Let's continue. And let's make a real simple form right now. So I'm gonna add a question. I want a short text. And let's say, what's your name? So the first question, we're making a text question. Then let's get the email of our lead. So what's your email? And let's do one more question. It can be a long text and could say, how can we help you? So when you're building forms for your apps, for prototyping your ideas, you don't want many questions because you're gonna lose leads if your form is too long. So you wanna keep it short and have the real important questions. So we're gonna be asking the name, the email, and how can we help you? We let them talk. So if they want, we let them talk. So right here, what do we want? We can share our type form with this link right here. We also could embed our form into web pages using type form. This is a great asset of this tool. So if we click here, you can edit your form. You have some small customizations with the width and the height, and you can get the code, the HTML code to use on your page. But we are not going to do that. We're going to use the base type form link that we can share to our customers. And if we share this link right here, this type form is private. Let me use this link in a new tab. I need to make my form public. Yes, there's that. So let's see right here in the form, publish. So I missed that part. So we need to publish our form because I was building the form, now it's done, I want to publish it, and now finally people can access my new form. So let's see, Bruce Wayne has arrived. So it's Bruce Wayne. His email, it's gonna be Bruce at, you asked me to keep it nerdy, a little bit nerdy, so here it is. So here is Bruce at gmail.com, and how can we help him? He's gonna ask us, when do you launch? So he wanna know when we will be ready. Okay, so Bruce filled our form. If we look here in our type form, we can see the results page. And here we can see all the responses, and we have here beautifully the Bruce already responded, and we have access to Bruce. But we don't want to access the leads here. As I said, we want to use a workflow tool to manage our leads, okay? Type form is taking a little bit to load here. Let's refresh it, but it's okay, it's here. So we're gonna talk a little bit about Trello, okay? So for the ones that don't know what Trello is, right here, Trello allows you, it's a workflow process tool. It allows you to create boards. It's really simple. You can create a new board. For example, I'm gonna show you how to create a new one from scratch. Here you can use the startup leads. I'm gonna do, this is the name of the board. It gives us a nice background. You can change the background to a picture or anything you want. And right here, you can add the list. So let's do inbox. And here is contacted. We can say close it. So the deals that we have actually closed, and lost, okay? So here we have a workflow process. And what do I need to do right now? For every new result in my type form, I have to check, oh, okay, the name is Bruce Wayne. So I have to go to my Trello. I have to add a new card, Bruce Wayne. I have to go back. I want to get his email and his description. So it's a very boring and painful process to manually get everything from every lead. It's okay if I have a few leads, but what about, we could say something like this. What about when you have hundreds of leads, even dozens of leads? You can see it will be a pain for me to get manually from Typeform and to go to Trello, okay, to do manually. And in Trello, we can manage these leads. For example, after I called Bruce Wayne, I can move it here. And if we close the deal, I can move it here. So it allows me to automate my lead process, okay? So right now, Bruce Wayne is in my inbox, and I had to do this manually, and I don't want to do this manually because I'm gonna have hundreds in the next couple hours. I'm gonna have hundreds of new leads for this amazing app. And let's see how we can automate that, okay? Okay, so let's go back here. So we've been through Typeform, we've been to Trello, and now let's see how we can automate to send my leads from Typeform to Trello. So here, the user fills the form is in Typeform, and I want my leads to be on Trello. And so it would be really nice if Typeform would send a webhook to Trello with my new lead. It would be amazing. But actually, we will need some middleware to get this bridge, to get the information from Typeform and to send it to Trello, okay? Usually, this is a middleware that could be built by us, could be built by a developer. It's a simple middleware that will get the information from Typeform and send it to Trello. We can build stuff to connect, to get webhooks and to send requests. But we're not going to do any code. We're not going to build it. we are going to use another tool to do this for us, to act as this middleware, to get the webhook from Typeform and to send it to Trello, okay? So what we want is the user fills the form. This is the event. When it fills the form, the Typeform is going to send a webhook. Some application will have to receive this webhook. It's going to be ready for that. And then this application will send an API request to Trello, so Trello can fill the board. And we're going to use, hopefully, gratefully, we don't need to code it by ourselves right now. We can use Zapier that does exactly that. Zapier allows us to automate, so to get webhooks and to send requests and to connect this kind of things and to automate our process, and it's really easy. It's really simple. So Zapier is going to be this middleman that we're going to link Typeform and Trello. Zapier can link a lot of stuff without doing one line of code, so it's really awesome, okay? So right here, we've built for a custom Sales CRM. First, we've signed up to Typeform, then we have built the new form. I've shown it to you. We have the form working. We have signed up to Trello, and we have created our new leads board to receive these new leads to our workflow. Now, we need to sign up to Zapier and create a new Zap that connects Typeform and Trello using webhooks and APIs that we just saw. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, I'm gonna go to Zapier. Is everything okay right here? Yes? Okay. So let's do this. I'm gonna enter Zapier. And we want to connect Typeform, the form that we have built, and Trello. And to do that, we need to make an account on Zapier. And right here, I already have an account. It's really easy to sign up. And here we can connect things. We can create new Zaps, okay? So if we go to our dashboard, Zapier is really simple to use. And first, we search for an app to connect. It has lots of apps that we can use. So what we want to do is to go to Typeform. And then we want to send the information to Trello. So it has Trello right here. And as I said, what's the trigger? What's the event that happens? So Zapier actually knows how to connect to Typeform. And here it has the event. Every time a new entry comes to Typeform, I'm going to select this. And when a new entry happens, what's it going to do? We could do lots of stuff on Trello. And we could create a new board. We could create a list. But actually, we want to create a card on our inbox list. So let's do create a card on Trello when new entry type in Typeform. Great. Let's use this Zap. It's called Zaps. And first, we need to connect our Typeform account. So let's sign in to Typeform. So what Zapier is going to do, it's going to connect to Typeform and be listening to a Typeform webhook. So every time a new entry goes to Typeform, it sends a webhook to Zapier, and Zapier will be listening. So here I accept to connect my Typeform account. This is my account, continue. And I'm going to choose the form. So what's really interesting here is Zapier is sending a request to Typeform to get an API request to get all the forms I have. See, I'm on Zapier and it shows all the forms. It's how Zapier does that is through API calls. It's doing an API call to Zapier to Typeform to get all my type forms. So I'm choosing leads every time someone fills the leads. Let's refresh the fields and continue. And it's already connected to my Trello already. So let's test and continue. So great, we are connected to Typeform, to the leads form. So right here, we want every time a new entry, it creates a card on Trello. So I'm gonna choose my account. I have connected my account right here. And I want to customize. So it's gonna say, okay, please choose the board. It sends a request to Trello to get all the boards I have right here. And I want the board startup leads. So it's gonna create a card in the startup leads board. And for the list, right here, I want the cards to enter the inbox list. So I want to go here. So I'm gonna choose inbox. So right now it asks me for the name of the new card. So I want the name of the user that uses the Typeform. So here I can search for all options, and I can get the information from what's your name in my form. So right here I can get the what's your name information. And about the description of the card, I can say email, and we're gonna get the email from the form. So the question, what's your email, goes here. And also I want to do, let's do this, and say the description, and we want to enter, how can we help you? Whatever the user had typed in our form, okay? You can customize a lot of things here. We're not gonna go through that right now, but you can do labels and card positions and everything that you want. And so let's keep it simple. We want to get the leads from Typeform to Trello, and cross our fingers to work. We want it to be able to work right now. If it does not work, it's maybe because I'm using fake emails to my Typeform account, but let's hope, let's cross our fingers that it's gonna work together with Trello. So it's loading to customize our cards. Let Zapier work for a little bit. So let's wait a little bit for Zapier. Okay, that's it. So here, Zapier is sending to Trello, to our startup leads Trello. That's great. Let's test and continue. And what Zapier is doing right now, why is it taking a little bit? Because Zapier is sending requests to Trello to check if it's working. So it's communicating with Trello API and back and forth to see and to actually send the data from Typeform and to test if it's working. So after Zapier creates this automation using webhooks and APIs, we are gonna turn it on and we're gonna see if it works for our new leads. Okay. We are great, we are done, everything is good. Our Zap is ready, so let's turn it on. It's on, go to my Zaps. We have this Zap working. And let's go to our lead and try to fill a new lead, okay? So right here, let's copy this and enter our leads form. And what I want here is when I create a new lead, so let's do Sebastian Saunier, it's our CDO. And let's register, and how can we help you? Fingers crossed to work. So we have a new lead coming to our form. Submit it, and what we want to see is we want this new lead to be on Trello, to be sent by Zapier to our Trello. So let's check it out. Let's refresh this Trello page. It's not there yet. It might take a little bit time to work. So, well, the important thing is we can create these automations. Sometimes it takes a little bit to work. It might be because I don't have I have my fake emails for this account, but don't worry, it will work for you when you're building the automation. And also you will do the challenges, and you can, with your integration, it works properly, okay? Sometimes it takes a little bit for the integration to go through. So right now, it's your time to build. We are gonna send you, let's screen share one more time. We're gonna send you the link to onboard the platform. You're gonna have access to the slides. I'm gonna show you a little bit of this platform right now. So here you can join us with the token, and here we have the takeaways section that goes through all the important takeaways from the workshop right here with the metaphors and everything, APIs, webhooks, everything you need. And you have some challenges that you can make and solve questions with us. So now it's the time to build. You can build your own automation. We have some challenges here for you using GitHub API, geocoding and address, and custom sales. If you have questions building, you can ask in the Q&A. And afterwards, please leave the feedback for us, for me also, through this workshop, okay? So thank you very much for watching the lecture, for all the questions. I see we have lots of questions here. That's great. You can upvote questions, guys. I don't know if you know that, but you can click the little upvote on the side of the question to make it higher in priority, so me and also the TAs can answer them.